Welcome to my palette roundup for March. In this video series, I simply take you through all of the palettes that I used in the previous month, show you looks where I remembered to take a picture, and let you know the shades I used. There really aren't very many rules for this. Any palette I use, I can use as many times during the month as I want to use it. The only catch is, at the end of the month, they all have to go into a palette vault. It's really just a basket, but I can't use them again until I have been through most of the palettes in my inventory. I do get 3 get out of jail free cards, and what that means is for 3 palettes, I can pull them out of the palette vault and put them back into my inventory to be used again in the following month. If you enjoy palette reviews, then I think you're going to like this video, so I hope you stick around. I think I did a pretty good job this month of keeping track of the shades I used in each palette and in taking pictures of the looks. So I scooched myself over, and I will put the look over here as I talk about the palette. So the first palette I used was the same one I used today, and that's the e.l.f. Bite Size palette. And pretty much every look that I do looks just like it does today. And that's because there's just not a whole lot of variety in here. This is hard to open, and this here is broken. This is also in my Out the Door in 24 Project Pan. When I just finished filming that video, I believe that one will be up before this one, so I'll link it in the cards if you haven't seen it. But I took this out of town with me, and the shade that it had the most significant pan, when I went to swirl my brush in, it kind of broke out of the corners. And so I haven't decided if I'm going to dump that out or just try to use as much of it as I can and then dump it out or repress it. I don't know. There's just so much you can do with 4 shades, and it pretty much always looks like this. But I did use that same palette a total of 5 times this month. The next one that I used was the BH Cosmetics Smitten in Switzerland. And I kind of just got on a roll with it and used it 4 days in a row. So I'm going to just kind of scroll through all of the looks that I did here. And I'm going to try and see, can I do that? Will it let me? Yeah, actually it will. As you can see, I do have pan in this as well. I love this palette. So the first time I used it, I used Snowcap. Then Fondue. Slope is this brown over here. Glacier Express is this beautiful kind of taupey, lavendery shimmer. Oh, so pretty. And then Chocolate to deepen up the crease. On day 2, I used Snowcap and Fondue again. These two are just really good setting and transition shades for me. Then I went with the berries on this one, and I used Lucerne in the transition area. Yodel to deepen up the crease, Zurich for my shimmer, and Nightfall to actually give it a little more depth in that outer corner. The 4th time I used it, I went into Montreux for my transition shade, then deepened it up a little bit with Fondue, and then I decided to play with the greens, so I went into Mountain in the crease and Mount Rigi for my shimmer. The next day I used it, but I did not write down the shades that I used, so I will just let you look at the look, and we'll move on to my next palette. And that was the Shrek palette. I picked this up at TJ Maxx, and I had it on in one of the lives that I filmed. If you haven't caught my Wednesday live, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Time, I'm live, and we're just talking about makeup, hanging out with friends, enjoying a cup of coffee or another beverage of your choice, having a snack, whatever it is you want to do. Hang out and chat with us. It's a lot of fun. So for this look, I used as many shades as I could in this because I really wanted to play with it. And so I have written down that I used 1, 2, and 3, 6, 10, 11, 12, and 19. So I used a ton of shades in there. And then I used this again when I filmed my St. Patrick's Day look. And for that look, I used the brighter kind of Kelly greens. And if you haven't seen that, I will link that up in the cards. This is such a fun palette. It's from I Heart Revolution. And I know sometimes Revolution formula can be hit or miss, but this one's actually really good. And I like that it's not just green. There are plenty of neutrals in here and some warmer tones, so you can get a lot of variety. And the mirror is amazing because it's big and you can see your whole face. It's super clear. And I think it was a great bargain at $12.99. Picked it up at TJ Maxx. That's where you'll have to find it because it's not on the Revolution website anymore. The next one that I have a look for is the Marc Jacobs Extravagance palette. This was given to me in friend mail. I love the formula in here. I have another one of these, and I just love having these palettes in my inventory. I think I wore this when I filmed a video, and if I can remember which one it was, I will link that in case you want to go check out the look in action. I didn't film putting the look on, I just had it on when I was filming that day. For this one, I used the shades At Last, I Have, True, and Found. The next palette that I used, and I am going chronologically through the month, by the way. There won't be 30 or 31 pictures because I didn't wear eyeshadow every day, but I am going chronologically through the month in the order that I wore them. Then I used the Morphe x Madison Beer Channel Surfing Artistry palette, and I used this for 2 days in a row. I marked these with the rows with a letter and the columns with a number because there aren't any names on here, and so that was a way I could kind of keep straight what I was using. So in the first look, I went more neutral. I had A1, then C5 down here, and then B5, and A2. I feel like I'm playing Battleship. Okay, so that was the first neutral eye look. And then the next day, I went more with the rosy tones. Again, I started with A1, but then I went into C1, C3, C2, and A2. The next palette that I used was quite a surprise, and I am so glad that I got this. This is the Lamora Nude eyeshadow palette. I got this off of Amazon. Saw this on Jen Phelps. She reviewed it. I immediately wanted it. It is a dupe for the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette, and I had kind of wanted that palette. And then I realized that I shouldn't buy it because it has carmine in 4 of the shades, and so it would make it kind of unusable for me. But this was $9.99 on Amazon, and it is just stunning. It is so pretty. Yes, it's a neutral palette, but it's primarily a cool neutral, and I just love it. The formula is really good. I used it in the live that I did on March 13th, and so I will link that if you haven't seen it and want to see it actually in action and which shades I used. And then I used it again the next day. I did not write down the shades that I used, but I do have a picture of the look. I will list the palettes down below, and where possible, I will add links as well. Some of those will be affiliate links. You are, of course, under no obligation to shop through my links, but if you do, I get a little commission, and I appreciate it very much. Next, I used this LA Colors Cool palette, and I really, really like this. There are several in this series. This is my favorite of them. There's a rose and a warm and I think a nude, and they're not all as good as this one. The cool is really, really nice. For this look, I used the first shade, then I went in with this cool transition shade, the 8th one, and then used shimmer number 6 on the outer portion of my eye and shimmer 5 on the inner portion, and it gave just this really very pretty taupey neutral kind of look that I just really, really enjoyed. I used the Sigma Spicy palette on the next 2 days. The first day I did not take a picture, but the second day I did the exact same look. So for that I used Tryst as a transition, Bootleg to deepen the crease, Soiree as the outer portion of the eye lid shimmer, and then Moonshine in the kind of center portion of the eye, and Biscotti as an inner corner. And I hadn't used this palette in a while, so it was really nice to get it out and play with it. And I think the look turned out really nice. Next up was this Morphe Ashley Strong palette, and these shades are just so pretty. It's kind of grungy and deep and just really, really nice. I started out with I Am Loved. Then I deepened it up in the crease and the outer corner with I Am Thankful. I used I Am Creative. This shimmer is a duochrome, and it is just so pretty. I used that on the majority of the lid from kind of center to the outer portion, and then went into I Am Unique for the inner portion of the eye. And again, I thought it turned out really pretty. Working our way to the last week of the month, I used the Blessed palette. I put this into my Canning Cats and Dogs project. If you didn't see that update, I will link that for you. This is just gorgeous. I love this palette. I'm so glad that I have it. I'm glad that I shopped the Christmas in July sale and treated myself to this. And so, yeah, this is beautiful. As I said, this is in my Panning Cats and Dogs, and I'm in it for 5 uses and no shade left behind because I do have some shades in here that I haven't used. And so I want to rectify that. For the look that you're seeing here, I went in first with My Savior, and then I deepened up the crease in the outer corner with Little Bit. I went in with Shy Guy for the lid shimmer. This is one that I had not used before, and oh my goodness, is it gorgeous. Wow, so pretty. And then I used Be a Blessing in the inner corner to lighten things up there. So very happy with this. You will be seeing more looks, and this is not going to count against my 3 get out of jail free cards. You know I would use one for it if I needed to, but it's in another project and therefore it can't go to the palette vault, so I don't have to rescue it. I only have 3 more palettes that I used in the month of March. 2 of them are from Alter Ego. The first one is the Blooms palette. This is a Natasha Denona dupe. I don't know which one. I'll look it up, and when I'm editing, I'll add it on the screen here, but this is a very rosy, pink, kind of purpley toned palette, and Blooms is a very good description of it because it does make you think of spring flowers, or at least it makes me think of spring flowers. I started out with Petal, and if I hadn't told you that, you probably could have guessed because it's the lightest shade in the palette, and I almost always start with the lightest shade in the palette. One of these days I'm going to have to do things like in a different order and mix it up and see if it makes a difference. And then I went into this kind of bricky orange color, pinky color here called Snapdragon. Again, with this one I tried to use shades that I don't always go for first. I wanted to try to see if I could come up with something a little different. I deepened things up with Lush over here. And then the shimmers that I used were Hibiscus, Petunia, and Lily as an inner corner. The next Alter Ego palette that I used was the Shadow Kiss. And this is a dupe for the Natasha Denona Glam palette. It's all kinds of cool neutrally goodness. I first went into Risk, and it's getting kind of a dip there. I bet I'm going to hit pan on that pretty soon. Then Vanish. This is a little bit warmer of a shade, but I went in with Shroud for my shimmer, and that's definitely a cool tone. So this wasn't like a warm look by any means. It was kind of neutral. And then Disguise was the shimmer that I used on the inner portion of the lid. The last palette that I used in March was the Blueberry Muffin palette. And when I did this one, I used shades that I almost never use in here. Usually I use this, obviously, if I'm going for a blue look. But there is enough neutral in here that you can actually get kind of a neutral look. And you can even get kind of a pinky, plummy, rosy look, too. And that's what I went with on this one. I first went into Fluffy, which is this kind of neutrally peachy color. And then I deepened it up with 350 degrees. I used Yummy for my primary lid shimmer. And when I do that, I kind of go from here all the way to the outside. So pretty. Then I used Cravings on the inner portion of the lid. And that is just a super foiled. And it looks kind of like it's thick and chunky, but it's just really not. It's so pretty. And then I used Stud Muffin as a liner and under the lower lash line. And just loved how this look turned out. I will definitely be doing that look again. So I used 12 palettes total in the month of March. And now I get to decide which 3 get to stay in my inventory for the next month. I definitely want to keep this Lamora Nude because I want to play with it some more. I want to do different looks. It's new, it's exciting, I'm not ready to put it away. So this one gets the first get out of jail free card. I think the next one I'm going to do is the Blueberry Muffin palette because as we're heading into spring, I'm looking at like Cheat Day, this purple up here, and some of the other shimmers. And I kind of want to play with that for springtime. So this is going to go back in as well. And I think on that same vein of going into spring and spring looks and flowers and that sort of thing, the third redeemed palette is going to be the Blooms palette. And all of these pinks and lavenders and purples will be beautiful to use in April for spring. So the 3 redeemed palettes are here. If you enjoyed this video, I hope that you will give it a thumbs up before you go. And if you have a little bit more time to watch some videos, I'll put a couple right there to make it easy for you. I hope you have a beautiful, blessed day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.